Thank you, everyone. Happy to be here and to read my poem again. It's undergone some evolution. I read it last year and cried through it. But the name of it is Sunji's Bumpy Ride, and it's based on 3 years ago today. Well, 3 years ago this month, rather. My son was walking through his neighborhood in Clarkston and was picked up by a police officer for just walking in his own neighborhood. And what's a poet mother to do but write a poem about it to make sense of it? So this is a new iteration that I hope to bring to a children's book and to help educate kids on basically staying true to yourself, and also how to be when you're in a violent situation where your personhood is assaulted by an abusive police officer. So this is Sunji's Bumpy Ride. Was a day when walking in his own neighborhood, minding his own business, that the brown man-child Sunji turned man on a bumpy ride in a battle for personhood. It was epic. Sun-kissed skin, wide, kind eyes, dimples were the features of Sunji's handsome face. He was average height for his age, slight of build, all elbows and knees, and man feet he'd soon grow into. He was well loved, daddy's big man, his mama's pride and joy, protector to his little sister. Well loved was the man-child Sunji. This day he walked in his own neighborhood, in his usual habit. No reason to walk, no agenda, just minding his own business, letting the trees and blooming bushes and the well-tended yards he passed do their work and set his boy dreams to flowing. Neighborhood gave way to dreamscape a few minutes into Sunji's walk. Mind in flight, he began to swing his lyrical sword, toss rhymes this way and that, start a faint beatbox, nothing heavy, just some fun wordplay. A way to be with his own thoughts, walking, minding his own business. When out the corner of his eye, Sunji caught a police car trailing behind him. Sunji kept walking, but his rhyme and lyrics scattered. This made him mad, but he kept on walking, forcing the natural and a natural everyday walk, but each step seemed a million yards. It was a relief to Sunji when at last the police car sped up and stopped beside him. Wasn't the first time he'd been stopped by the cops in his own neighborhood. Now he could answer the stupid, obvious questions. Soon he could be back on his way to walk and keep on dreaming. Sunji stood, remembering bits his parents taught him and bigger brown boys warned him. Hands out of pockets in plain sight. Be still, act natural, be polite. Pushing down best he could, his little boy shakes. He stood his ground best he could, prepared to meet man to man, eye to eye. The tinted window rolled down to reveal a lone driver in blue, decked out in dark glasses, buzz cut and tan, with swole biceps straining his decorated shirt. Every inch of him screamed, extra, extra, big me up. Something about the officer, in spite of the fake smile, seemed to Sunji a little off, like he was thirsty for something, like he was chomping at the bit on the hunt. A swole hound on the hunt. Sunji found himself trapped in a rigged chat he had no choice about. Every sir that came out of Sunji's mouth seemed to make the swole hound lick his lips and look even more thirsty. Sunji fought the urge to run the 3 blocks home to his mother and father, but he stood his ground, swallowed his fear, did his best to be brave, and answered this strange officer's questions. Talking about a black male matching his age, size, and color, talking some breaking into houses in the neighborhood, robbing and stealing. Officer asked, wasn't it you? Wasn't it Sunji on yesterday that he almost caught trying to break into a house, almost caught and chased yesterday? The best of no sirs were no match for the cop. Sunji turned to leave, but the cop wouldn't let him. Don't run from me, boy, you're under arrest. Then he grabbed him. Sunji in terror, lips trembling, pleading, please sir, I want to go home. I'm an honor student, to which the cop replied, sure you are, Sunji cried, I didn't do nothing. Ignoring Sunji's cries, then Sunji saw it, there in cop's satisfied look, the grin. The cop was less thirsty now. What the cop was thirsty for had been him. A strange feeling to be grabbed by the collar, snatched and shook dizzy and flung to the ground, to lie face down on the ground Dope MCs rhymed it, parents warned it, bad dudes bragged it, news blared it, but up close to live it, something strange took Sunji out of body somewhere else. Then face down on the ground with the thirsty hound's knee in his back pressed and threatening to crush his windpipe, somewhere else into the dirt, a void of the blackest black, a hothouse of man-funk tears, blood, fear, then the glimmer of faces, brown man-child faces. Names came to him, names one after another rushing at him. The faces were still, said nothing to Sunji, stared ahead like they were waiting on him. Waiting to do what? Sunji didn't know, only that he must live, then back to his body, plugged in. One thing, get air, air to keep on breathing, to keep from dying. Sunji's heart cried out to the faces for help. He felt the ground shift, give way just enough for him to push back, to turn his head some and breathe. Sunji gulped and gasped, spat blood and curses at the cop, not caring any more of manners and form. All the cop lapped up like a pup. He handcuffed Sunji, jerked him up to his feet and tossed him in the back of the car. Set out on a bumpy ride, Hound and the Hounded. The car sped to life, Hound at the wheel, hitting speed bumps, braking short, taking turns wide and fast. Sunji unbuckled, tossed about in the back seat, his handcuffs, hands behind him. He grasped the metal of a seatbelt lock for anchor. Around and around a half-mile radius drove, the Hound spewing bad cop, worst cop prattle. Confess you were robbing and stealing, I'll take you home. Don't confess, you'll go to juvie. Sunji begged to be let go, cried for his mama and daddy, choked snot-nosed sobs, clung to the truth. I didn't do it, man, he screamed. I didn't do nothing. The brown boy, bloodthirsty Hound, pressed on at the wheel, braking and flooring, telling Sunji he had to do but one thing, confess he was robbing and stealing, then he would go home. The bumpy ride wore on. The urge in Sunji grew to confess he was the one robbing and stealing. Maybe he was and just forgot. Maybe it was true, all that the Hound said. But Sunji fought the urge with all the might in his man-child heart, though it might mean never seeing his loved ones again. He remembered what his loved ones taught him, his true name, for one, Sunji, short for Sundia the Lion King. Legend of Griot, sorry. Legend of Griot, son of shapeshifter and warrior. The son who, as a boy, couldn't stand on his own until the day he pulled himself up with spirit-forced iron. Iron he became in the back of the car, a vein of glistening hatred at his core, radiant hatred, the rarest of forms, dazzling, dizzy hatred for everything, anything forevermore cop-related. Hating and anchored anew, Sunji stuck to his story, the truth. I didn't do it, man. I didn't do nothing. With every new bump, Sunji pushed back with his own true story, until at last the car came to a stop and the Hound jumped out. Uncuffed Sunji mumbled something about stay out of trouble, sped away, and there Sunji stood, dazed and battered. Fought and won seemed like his personhood. To be free, to realize freedom's heavy price, to descend in the blackest of black, to have faces of watchers trouble the ground, to make space for him so he could keep breathing. To remember to cling, to fight a thirsty thing with bogus authority in blue, to wrestle the demon on a bumpy ride, to wrestle and win somehow. Sunji sighed with a shake of his weary head and new man eyes, new thoughts to think, things to decide, hatred to sort out. All was his now, make what he wished. Sunji trudged home with new man steps. To himself he said, man, that was something.